you today?
Hello, as usual, I'm vibing to the intro. I love it every day.
Yes, show makes me want to go. Yay. Okay. I'm glad that you took the time out to join us today. We do appreciate it. And everybody out there watching us today, thank you for coming back to see what we're gabbing about today on Gab with Goldnbronze. We really do appreciate it. So today we are going to gab about something that might be a little sensitive to everybody, but it's a topic that needs to be discussed. And it is too fat, too skinny. So telling someone they are too skinny may seem harmless, but it can be emotionally and psychologically damaging. The same as if you tell someone they're too fat. Not only can it be emotionally and psychologically damaging, it's just rude. So don't do it. Here are several reasons why this type of comment is often helpful and potentially harmful. But before I do that, I tend to go on the opposite spectrum of this conversation, and I consider myself thin, but to a larger person, they may consider me too skinny. And I have had that said to me, and I get a little defensive about it and sometimes clap back, but I'm doing better at that. So I just wanted to, before we get into the potentially harmful aspects of calling someone either or, is to talk about those word connotations. Like thin is generally a more neutral or even positive uh, descriptor of when talking about body size. It can imply leanness or slenderness, built without suggestions of excessiveness. So thin is often used in a descriptive, non-judgmental way and can even be a compliment in certain contexts. And that's what my co-host was telling me because it gets under my skin if someone calls me skinny. And so she was saying, oh, that could be a compliment. And it depends on how it's said. But the word skinny, on the other hand, can carry a very negative or critical tone. It often implies that someone is underweight or lacking muscle, suggesting frailty or any kind of unhealthy thinness. Skinny can evoke an image of being overly thin, which can feel judgmental and less respective of someone's natural body type. Now, I want my co-host, and we talked about how we're going to do this, and let's just let it roll. But with just that little bit of what I've said, tell the audience about if they go to someone on the opposite spectrum and say, you're too fat, how that might come across with that word connotation versus thick versus obese.
Okay. Well, speaking from the thicker perspective, that's me. Um, I think that if sometimes it depends on, for me, how they say it and who is saying it. You know, because if someone tells me I'm fat, this is just my response because of I'm okay with me at this point. Then I would tell them there's three other directions you can look. You don't have to look at me if it displeases you. And so I think it's also a matter of background and what you've experienced before that would take you in those places. But I think people should really watch their words when they talk to people about their appearance because it can be it's a matter of perspective. Maybe they think everyone who is thin, that's the standard of beauty. And so if you're thinner, they're going to compliment it, but you may not feel comfortable with it. You may not think that's a good thing. And for me, they might say, "Oh yeah, you're good and big." And if I didn't like this about my body, I wouldn't take that as a compliment at all. So it's just a matter of, I think, perspective, mostly how you feel and how it's meant.
Okay, I agree with you. So we're gonna talk about the unhelpful and potential harmful effects after I go through some implied value judgment versus thin and skinny, just because people tend to think it's okay, like you just said, to say you're thin, and that is okay. But to say you're skinny is close to saying you're emaciated. And there's three categories for both: emaciated, skinny, thin, fat, thick, fat, and obese. So we'll look at them from both perspectives. So
Okay.
applied judgment then tends to sound less judgmental and can simply acknowledge a person's build without implying that it's too much or too little. It's less likely to come across as a critique or an observation meant to make someone feel less self conscious. But if you call them skinny, that often implies an extreme or lack, as if the person doesn't meet a certain ideal of health or balance. This can make that person feel like their body is being scrutinized or seen as deficient and or as too much if you say that they are fat or obese, because we are living in a world where thick is considered the standard for beauty now, and it used to be thin, as you said, but now it is the opposite. Thin usually feels more neutral or positive to the person being described, as it doesn't inherently suggest anything negative about their body. But when people hear thin, may be less likely to feel criticized and more likely to accept it as just a simple observation. But skinny can trigger some feelings of inadequacy or shame or self consciousness. Many people associate that with comments they've received about needing to eat more or bulk up or you need a hamburger or two, making it feel like a critique rather than an observation. And, I've had people say, you need to eat a hamburger or two, and I hold my tongue because in my mind, I'm thinking you need to stop eating hamburgers. But I'm learning not to clap back. Now that's the fun to this, because honestly, that's true. When it's said to me, I'm looking at them thinking just the opposite, and
Yeah.
we'll be right back. All right, all right. So, Mikki G, what do you think about what I just said?
Well, I did have this thought that if a person was very large or obese and they decided to lose weight and people noticed that they were losing weight, someone would probably use skinny, like, girl, you sure I getting skinny? Look at you, skinny girl. And that might be a compliment to them because they're trying to lose the weight and they've been successful at losing the weight. And so it might hit them differently. It might hit them as a compliment as opposed to someone who is thinner and does not want to be that size.
That's a valid point. But people should be cognizant as to whether or not that person has had health issues too.
Right,
Because if they have health issues, then it's not a compliment again.
right, right.
But
If
your
they
point is made.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry. If they have an illness that causes them to lose weight, let's say,
It's
for
not a
example,
compliment. Yeah,
cancer or something like that, and they haven't disclosed it to people that they have this illness,
exactly.
and people say, "Girl, you're getting so skinny. You need to eat," but you don't realize that
That's what I meant. Yeah.
they're suffering from something they haven't disclosed to you. So you have to really watch your tongue about what you say.
Yeah, got to be cognizant of that person's health status. But there
Yes.
are also cultural perceptions to fat and skinny. Thin can carry a sense of desirability, like you said, in many cultures, where slenderness is often associated with health or being fit. The perception can make thin seem like a compliment, aligning with certain social standards and ideas. Skinny is often viewed as an extreme to that, where the person may appear unhealthy or as though they are not nourishing themselves properly. It can come across as more judgmental and even as veiled criticism, especially in social contexts where being too thin is stigmatized. Now, I'll tell you, I have a very high metabolism and I have a straight gut. And I know you've heard that term. I can eat and it comes right back out. And then I'm burning energy. So I am one of those that no matter how people say they don't like that about me, I've had people say, I hate you for that because I can eat like your sister as much as I want to
Right.
and
Right.
as often as I want to. And I am not going to gain a pound,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
even when I'm trying,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I was once that way. Once upon a time. Yeah.
yeah, and people been waiting for me to get fat. I promise you. Wait till you get 30. Wait till you get
Yeah.
40. And I finally said, quit waiting. It's not happening for me.
No.
Okay. That's not my makeup
Mhm.
because I have a very high metabolism. And you
Right.
know that I'm like the
Right.
Energizer bunny, right?
Yes.
I
Yes,
don't
indeed.
wear out until I wear out. And usually that's when the battery just wears out.
What is that?
That's that's Goldnbronze laying over there. Her battery that wore out.
I don't think I've known you to stop, so I
That's
don't
what
know
I'm
what to say.
saying. You know, and
Yeah.
you burn up the calories when you do
Right.
that. That's our makeup.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the body diversity and respect for each other, like people should really respect that everybody is not meant to be the same, and acknowledge that, then can acknowledge someone's natural body shape like we're talking about now without questioning its validity.
Right.
I mean, you're born that way. You're born thin frame. You're born thick frame. And you're born thicker than thick frame. And so we should all just be accepting of each other's body frame.
Mm.
Skinny can feel disrespectful again because it implies that that person does not meet a perceived standard of balance or health, potentially making them feel very uncomfortable about their natural build. They could be naturally skinny and should be accepted as that. So, in summary, while, oh, you're so thin or you so skinny is often more neutral or positive, it can feel more critical and suggestive that someone is too thin, which can be uncomfortable or it can even be hurtful. And we talked about those harmful, uh, uh, potentially harmful effects from our verbiage that we use. So, commenting on someone's thinness can inadvertently reinforce a narrow view of what is normal or acceptable, and also commenting on someone's thickness. And I don't like to use the word fatness, but thick or fat,
Right.
because we're talking about too skinny, too fat, not too skinny, thick, or not thin,
Right.
thick. So
Right.
commenting on someone being too skinny, and I'm just going to say it, or in terms too fat, this reinforces an idea that being at either extreme, whether thin or overweight, is inherently bad. This contributes to the perception of harmful societal standards about body size, where people may feel pressure to look a certain way or be ashamed of the way that they are built. What do you think about that?
Oh, I have so many thoughts. One of the things I'll say, um, just briefly before we break, is that in some cultures, being fat is considered wealth. In some African cultures, the fatter you are, that means that you're very wealthy. And so, in that context, they celebrate that. And in our country, oftentimes people say that if you're if you're thin, that's a problem. But
Interesting, because I've never seen a fat African, but okay. We'll be right back. Okay, we are back. And as you want to finish up, as you were saying,
sure.
Nikki.
Sure. In some cultures in Africa, I've heard from one of my relatives who knows many and has uh, been close to many. They have said that in those cultures, fat means wealth. Now, in America, not necessarily. So for me, being a thicker woman, fatter woman, if we want to say that, a lot of times I endure the food police. So if I'm sitting across from someone who is not of size like me, they're looking at my plate and saying, "Do you think you should eat that? That's a
Wow.
lot of potatoes. Do you think you should eat that pie? There's sugar in that." And so for me, there's that imposed guilt that I try not to take on
Yeah.
because my plate is my plate and my body's my body. And I was once quite a bit thinner. And so after having my children and going through some life changes and menopause, I gained the weight. So now I see my body as a new set point. My
Yes.
metabolism isn't as fast as it used to be. And, middle age or older age and metabolism have changed a lot of things. And so I've had to accept my body. And if I want to change it, I can change it and sculpt it, but I have to be okay with who I am and where I am at this point. So if people say something about me, that to me, that's a them problem.
So, you make a very good point. And you're speaking of midlife and menopause. And um, it doesn't always happen to everybody in midlife and menopause, but I heard a woman at work say one time, not knowing I had two children grown,
Right.
said, well, when you have babies, your bodies change. And I'm not with everybody. You
Right.
cannot generalize that. I said in 3 weeks, I was back to what I am today.
Right.
That goes back to having that high metabolism that
Yeah.
I'm not going to get rid of, obviously, you know?
Right.
So,
Obviously.
but what you said is also factual to the point that it can happen
Right.
to men and women. If you notice, men are slender when they're younger, and a lot of them get bigger around the midsection
Right.
as they go through a change of life. You know, they
Right.
can be more critical towards the women for having done it, but they do it too.
That
So,
I was thinking about that. I said it's acceptable for them to have these bellies and all these things and the gray hair, but for us, put a little weight on.
right.
Push away from the table,
Right.
darling,
Dye your
because you're getting
hair
too
or
big.
whatever. Where
Yeah, you're getting too big. You need to lose a little weight for
yeah.
me. Oh
Yeah.
no, no, big man, no.
So calling someone too skinny or too fat can trigger or exacerbate disorder eating and body image issues. For people with a naturally thin build or those who, may struggle with maintaining their weight, like me, hearing you're too skinny can make you hyper aware of your body and
Right.
may encourage disorder eating behaviors like indulging in foods that are really unhealthy for you, to make you gain weight. Just as comments about being overweight can trigger being too skinny, can lead to anxiety and eating habits such as bulimia, where people eat and then make themselves throw up before their body has a chance to, uh, you know, digest the food. And those create eating disorders. And I remember one day I was at the gym and I said, you know, this is how God made me. I'm going to this gym. I posted it on social media.
Yeah.
Your sister commented.
Yeah.
I said, God made me this way, and I am just not going to get thick
Yeah.
no matter how. My muscles get defined. I have biceps and I have all that.
Yeah.
Right now, you can't see it with this dress on, but sleep, you can see that I work out,
Yeah.
but I'm not getting big. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I'm just getting defined.
Yeah.
And so I said, I am going to quit killing myself in the gym. I
Yeah.
still go, but I used to, like, without fail, no matter what,
Right.
go to the gym, which I'm encouraging everyone to exercise and do that. But I was doing it for the purpose of trying to thicken up. And one day I realized it's not going to happen. I'm still going to have this thin frame, but muscles, right?
Right.
So nothing about me was going to change, but I was going to get muscular,
Right. Right.
you know. And I just wanted to make that point. She said the same as with her. She eats and eats and eats, and she stays
That's
the same.
She does. She does.
Mhm.
And it's funny, I don't eat as much as I once did. And I've lost weight, but I'm not trying to lose weight. And there's another thing that came to my mind when you were talking about eating disorders. There was a time when I would secretly eat, because of whatever shame or something.
Yeah,
I would wait till everyone goes to bed and I would gorge on my favorite thing, which was candy,
yeah,
or I would do it in secret. And
right.
so to me that was a disorder. I was never
It
diagnosed
was.
with a
Yeah,
disorder, but I know that if you're shamed during the day, you eat at night or when no one's looking at you. So
right,
that's something that I had dealt with too. And so at this point, there are parts of my body that I'm not proud of showing. I keep it covered, but I am who I am, and I'm made this way. And so if I don't love me, how can I expect anyone else to love me? It just
right.
is what it is.
And even I would go to doctors and they would do thyroid panels.
Mhm.
And I'm a nurse. I knew what they were doing. I've never
Right,
complained to you, doctor, that I had any problems with my thyroid, right?
right,
But
right.
because you're doing a thyroid stimulating
Mhm.
thyroid panel, I know you're wondering why I'm not gaining weight.
Yeah.
I know why you're running this test.
Yeah.
So, thinness can sometimes be a symptom of underlying health issues, including thyroid problems, like I just said. Thyroid problems, and we won't go through the list of other medical problems, but there are reasons malabsorption or chronic illnesses that cause people. So we need to be cognizant when we say to somebody, you are so skinny. Cancer, we don't know what their journey is, and it can come across as being blatantly rude. By focusing on the body rather than the individual's health, these comments overlook person's holistic well-being. If someone is underweight due to illness, calling attention to their size can make them feel self-conscious or defensive about a condition they may already be managing uh, with difficulty in private. And the same, it says, with people who are obese.
Right.
They are already aware of it. They look at themselves in the mirror every day. This is something that makes them defensive. They are already trying to manage their weight by cutting back on certain foods, changing their diet. They're aware of it. They don't need you to tell them that they're fat. They
Right.
don't need it.
Right.
So it creates social pressure to change your body size. Like you said, you used to gorge in private.
Mhm.
And like all body centered remarks, these comments can place unnecessary pressure on someone to change their body to meet external expectations. So people do have to learn, as you say, to love themselves. But when you have society constantly telling you you can't model because you're too fat or you're too skinny or you're not tall enough, and I think they're changing that
Yeah.
with modeling, but it used to be you had to be twiggy to
Right.
be a model and 5'10" or 6 and twiggy at that. For people who are naturally thin, gaining weight may be challenging, unrealistic, and undesirable for them. They may like who they are and how they are. Like Mikki G said, she's thick and she likes it. Well, a thin person can like it too. So,
Right.
social pressure to look different can lead to feelings of inadequacy and frustration as they struggle to meet the arbitrary ideal unless they are absolutely satisfied with how they look. Yeah.
Right. You made an interesting point in the fashion industry is changing. I have a Facebook friend who models in Paris, and she is very, very thin and tall. And I've seen a lot of the runway shows. There are thicker models, there are thinner models, there are Caucasian, there are African, they're all the whole plethora of looks of people. And so everyone is included. And I think that helps the inclusion of everyone, whether you're thinner or thicker, whether you're, as they say, skinny or fatter, everyone's included.
Yep, you're right, and we'll be right back. All right, all right. So you made a very valid point. When you call people too fat or too skinny, it diminishes their self-esteem and self-worth unless they are, as we have mentioned several times, already confident in who they are and happy with how they look. If you constantly remind somebody that they're too skinny or too fat, it can internalize that they can internalize that feedback about their bodies on a deeper level than you surfacely can see. Telling someone they are too skinny or too fat sends a message that their natural body type is flawed and unattractive, affecting their self esteem if they are not already confident and loving who they are in their own skin. So, when we focus on others' physical size, it can make that person feel as though their worth is tied solely to their appearance rather than their abilities, their character, or their personality.
Right.
Do you agree with me?
Yes, and I was thinking when you were talking about that I'm not a psychologist at all, but I wonder if that feeds into other eating disorders where the pressure to be thinner drives young women to, I think you mentioned bulimia earlier, or those eating disorders where they have a public persona with private pain, where they don't feel accepted, And so they go to extremes to cause themselves to be thinner, and it's not their natural body, you know.
Yeah,
So
I think that it does, Mickey,
yeah,
can lead someone to uh, feeling like they're overweight, even if they're not, because of somebody else telling them that they are.
right,
Yeah.
right. And so it could drive sickness. I remember there was a young lady I knew that had anorexia, and I hope this is not offensive to anyone. She did look skeletal, and as she was healing, she fleshed out a little bit. She was still on the thinner side, but she looked healthier, you
Hmm.
know. And so there's just different levels, like you said, emaciated, thin. There's just different levels to it, and you just don't know what a person's private struggle is when you see them. You don't know. And so
That's right.
judging someone, and people who are thicker, we know our clothes sizes are getting bigger. We know, you know, when you go, this is too tight. Oh, okay, I've gained some weight. You don't have to tell a person. We know already.
Yeah. Yep. So when we comment on other people's bodies so freely without their uh, invitation,
Right.
I'm getting stuffed up, people. I'm sorry. Without their invitation to do so, um, whether they're thin or otherwise, whether they're fat or otherwise,
Right.
we reinforce the idea that it's okay, it's appropriate to openly critique or to comment on somebody else's physical status, and it's really not okay. This creates an environment where people feel entitled to critique you uh, or anyone's body type, which can lead to pervasive discomfort, insecurity, and self consciousness in social settings. And people may not want to be around you if
Right.
they know every time they have to see you, you are commenting on their body stature. I
Right.
just think that can happen.
Yeah. Just like those food police. I was telling
Yeah.
you about. They always have. They often say. I can't say always. They often have something to say about a certain group of people. I just think that they're lazy. That's why they're so fat. I just think that they're not trying and they eat too much. And just like you said, thyroid issues I think can go the other direction as well.
Yes.
And so they don't
Absolutely.
know. The person might eat minuscule amount of food, but they're swelling. I remember my mother at one point took steroids for asthma,
Yeah.
but she bloated. Her body bloated, but
Yeah.
it wasn't because she was overeating or that she was out of control or she had no discipline. She had an issue that the medicine made her swell.
Right.
So, you can judge that, but you don't know what people are going through when you decide to open
Exactly.
your mouth against them.
Honey, you said a whole lot right there. And when we do that, we are overlooking the fact that bodies are diverse. Everybody is different due to their genetics,
Yeah.
lifestyle, and health conditions, as you just commented. Comments like too skinny, too fat reflect a misunderstanding of this natural diversity, pushing people toward a one size fits all mentality and body size, which is so far from reality. Such comments implicitly discourage people from accepting and embracing their natural, healthy body type and well being, which
Mhm.
can impact both mental and their physical well being, back to becoming anorexic or bulimic, or just the opposite, overeating unhealthy foods like fatty substances that can create internal problems such as high cholesterol or heart disease or diabetes. Trying to consume calories and sweets to gain weight can make you unhealthy physically.
Right,
So
right,
yeah.
right. Sometimes people emotionally eat. They're
Yeah.
going through something. They may eat in excess or drink alcohol in excess or whatever. They're trying to settle something inside of themselves. And sometimes emotionally, when you have an issue and you don't feel like you can speak, you don't feel like you can speak your truth and get it out, you plug it down with eating food. Instead of talking, you plug it down. And
Yeah.
so stuffing your feelings, also you stuff your mouth and your body, and you just don't know public persona, private pain.
And let me tell you something, Mikki. So this is something I don't know if you thought about. And um, it works on the flip. When I'm worried, depressed, scared, or angry, I won't eat. Now, I already have problems gaining weight.
Right.
But then when I don't eat because I'm worried, stressed, hurt, or whatever, I lose more weight.
Yeah.
You have to take in calories if you have a high metabolism. And the lack of doing that, you lose the weight. So it the things that apply to one extreme apply to the other people is what we're trying to say here.
Yes.
And it can make people feel unseen and unappreciated. When you focus on their body size, it often detracts from who they really are as an individual. When people receive frequent comments about their weight, it can make them feel that others only see them through that lens
Yeah. Yeah.
of their physical appearance rather than them being a whole person with great qualities, great abilities, and valued perspectives. And we'll be right back. Thank you guys for returning. So, Mikki, you want to piggyback off anything that I said here?
Oh, there's so much. This is such a needed conversation
Mm-hmm.
about perspectives and how we see each other and opening our mouths against each other. You have said so much on this subject, and it gives me a lot to think about. Because you're on the thinner side, I'm on the thicker side, and hearing your perspectives, and in turn, you hearing my perspective
Yeah.
helps us understand one another, and that might help in other people that we know that
Mm-hmm.
might have the same different body shapes, and we would think we would think again before saying something to someone about their appearance, because we don't know. And I was to say this finally about my body. No one would probably guess my weight because of, I guess, they call big boned, but
Yeah.
my frame is heavier than probably my girth. But
Right.
you just don't ever know. So be careful about judging people as to what you see on the outside, and just also assuming that they're unhealthy because they're heavy or because they're thin, because unhealthiness is on the inside. It's not necessarily on the outside.
Yeah, I have a young person in my life that is thick. She's
Right.
not obese.
Right.
And she is always wanting to be my size. And I'm like, I want to be your size.
Yeah.
So God made us how we are. Be comfortable in your own skin, is what I tell her. Because when we make comments about others' bodies, we contribute to a culture where people begin to feel entitled to critique other people's appearances.
Right.
God forbid, I don't know why, but we live in that culture where they just feel entitled to tell you, I don't like your hair today,
Right.
or you're too skinny. And we talked about this the other day. This actually happens to me. I don't know if it happens to you, but you know, I'm just taken aback if somebody tells me something like that because they feel entitled to critique my appearance, my hair, my whatever. And if someone is frequently told they're too skinny, they may internalize this type of judgment is normal, leading them to make similar comments about others. And didn't I just say that earlier? I used to clap back. I used to
Yes.
clap right back. But now
Yes.
I don't. I've grown. I think I've grown beyond feeling like I need to clap back because maybe I have now began to love me and my skin.
Right. Right. I think as we get older, we care less about what people say. We're about the business of living our lives. And so, you can just dust that off when people say that, but not everyone can. And you never know what a person has dealt with in their past, what they're dealing with at that time. There's nothing that makes you entitled to judge another person.
Right.
You are not walking perfection. I don't mean you, but a person
Yeah,
is not walking perfection where they can judge others. Everyone has some imperfection in them. And maybe people are speaking from their insecurities, projecting them on you.
that
Maybe,
part.
yeah, maybe their legs are too bold, and then they want to pick on your stature, so you won't look at them, they're looking at you. And so I
Right.
wonder sometime if someone else's insecurity is being projected upon the person that they're commenting about.
Possibly. I think within myself is personal growth,
Yeah.
because I
Yes.
don't clap back anymore. Actually, I do just the opposite. I get become silent, you know, in my reactions to most things. But those kind of comments still are unnecessary and invasive, and body comments especially sometimes as specific as, thinness or thickness are usually unnecessary and can be very invasive. People can honestly be meaning what they're saying, and
Yes.
it assumes a level of comfort or familiarity that may exist. And many people find such comments embarrassing and uncomfortable. At least I do, especially when shared in public or social settings.
Right.
I think that's very uncomfortable for me if someone says that in public or at social settings. So
Yes.
it's
So,
unnecessary nonetheless.
yeah. So what do you do? And this is a hypothetical. What do you do when you're the butt of the joke in front of everyone? Everyone is looking at you, and someone has called you out for, let's say you're at a dinner, and everyone is eating there, and you're the heavy person, let's say. And they say, "Boy, you really loaded up your plate. Do you think you should eat that much?" And everyone's looking at your plate. That puts a person on the spot. Or let's say in the place of a thinner person, someone passed some food to her because she didn't have enough food on her plate. The spotlight is on you, so it's very embarrassing, and it diminishes the person, and they feel smaller and put on the spot. That's abusive.
It is
Abusive.
very much so. I'm glad that you said that. And that is what we're all about, is letting people know some of the unnecessary things that are said and done to people. It's a thin line between abuse and non-abuse,
Mhm.
and a lot of people aren't aware that they're the abuser,
Mhm.
uh, that they're inflicting pain on someone else, not in a moment of trying to be a comedian, or they're attention seeking themselves, actually, for whatever reason. That's an underlying condition that is a whole nother topic, whole nother show. But when people
Yes.
tend to do that to other people, it is an insecurity, as you said, within themselves, you know definitely. So, I guess we're running out of time. Comments like, we could talk about this for a long time, but comments like "you're too fat" or "you're too skinny" are often unhelpful because they ignore personal context, reinforce harmful body standards, and risk damaging someone else's self-esteem and relationship with their body. Instead, it's generally better to avoid commentary on someone else's appearance altogether, unless it is positive, genuine, and appropriate. Telling someone they are too fat or too skinny is just unacceptable for many, many reasons. And before we do those things, we really need to realize that by doing it is problematic, and it's a problem within us, as my co-host said, or whoever, not us in
Right.
general, but in the person saying it is problematic for them, because they need to dig deeper into their soul to figure out why do they feel it's necessary to contribute to someone's weight, stigma, and body shame somebody else. Society often equates thinness with worthiness and health, which can stigmatize people in larger bodies. So when someone is told they are too fat, it reinforces stereotypes. And people in larger bodies, it reinforces stereotypes that they are lazy, unhealthy, or or lacking self-discipline, which Mikki mentioned way earlier in this conversation, that people often stigmatize the larger people as being this, which is not true. It's inaccurate and very damaging. And this kind of comment that we make about other people is very, very damaging and can harm their mental well-being and their self-worth.
Yes, yes, indeed. And since we advocate against domestic violence, we don't like that kind of violence, the abuse.
Right. So to summarize it, it can lead to or worsen mental health issues. It can trigger unhealthy weight loss behaviors, which is very damaging to that person's health. And it ignores health complexities and genetics. In a nutshell, we should not tell someone they are too fat, and we should not tell someone they are too skinny. And we should not really judge anybody's body type. Definitely, we as a society should not body shame. And that's my commentary. I am now going to ask my co host to take us on out of here like she
Right.
always does.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad we had this conversation. Is very needed. And I will say the Gap with Goldnbronze is a sponsor of Golden Swan Cadre, a 501c3 domestic organization that advocates against domestic abuse against women and for women's health and mental health issues. I want to tell you how you can donate to Golden Swan Cadre. If you go to Chime, enter $ Golden Swan Cadre, PayPal, the Golden Swan Cadre at gmail.com, our website, www.goldenswancadre.com. You may go to Instagram and visit the charity section to find the official _ Golden Swan Cadre. Also, go to Facebook, visit the charity section, and find Golden Swan Cadre. And we thank you for helping us make an impact today for women. And finally, little housekeeping. You can hear Gab with Goldnbronze on Village Global Network Radio every Saturday at noon. We are every week, so we're expanding and growing, and that is exciting news.
Yay.
Yeah, so we thank you for joining us. And Goldnbronze, I hand it back to you.
Thank you, everyone. Come back tomorrow. We'll have another interesting topic or guest, and we will see you then.